Colin Farr went to the bar and asked for another pint. It was his fourth since he'd come into the welfare not much more than half an hour ago. "Thirsty work back at school, is it?" said the steward. His name was Peter Pedley, but ever since he'd grown a bandido moustache to age his childishly young features when he first went down the pit, he'd been known as Pedro. His body had long ago thickened to a solid barrel, which was 80% muscle, and the childishness too had spread into a mature joviality, though the moustache remained. He was a man much respected, both for his strength of body and his resilience of spirit. In his mid-20s, he'd been advised by the doctor that the bronchitis which had troubled him since childhood was rapidly worsening underground. With a wife and young family, he was unwilling to take the wage cut and poor prospects of surface work, so he'd taken a job as a barman in a Barnsley pub, got to know the business inside out, and eventually returned to the place of his birth as the residential steward of the Burrthorpe Miners' Social and Welfare Club. 2 years later, his resilience was tested to breaking point when his youngest daughter, Tracy, aged 7, disappeared. The child had never been found. The consoling presence of and continued responsibility for 3 other children had kept Pedley and his wife from falling apart, but Mrs. Pedley had aged a decade in the years since the disappearance, and Pedro visited the Whisky Optic on his own behalf as frequently as on his customers'. He rarely let it show, however, and he had a sharp eye for alcohol-based trouble in others. Now Colin Farr supped 2 inches off the top of his pint and said, "University, not school, Pedro. But you're right. It's thirsty work, all that talking." "Better than fighting," said Pedley, amiably but with a hint of warning. He knew most of his customers better than they knew themselves. 4 pints in half an hour was par for the course in some. With young Farr, it spelt trouble.